Good evening, everyone. I am so excited today because I'm going to be sharing with you a real life example of a client that I helped go from not getting any interviews at the director level to having conversations all the way at the SVP level without having to apply to 100 jobs. He literally only applied to 6 jobs after working with me, and he already has progressed to the very final rounds of the interview. Finger crossed. I hope that it converts. But like I always tell my clients, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. So this is going to be off the cuff because honestly, there's nothing to rehearse here. This is an actual client that I've been working with, an amazing client, I have to add. And so all I'm sharing is the behind the scenes of how I help this client because I suspect that if you're watching this and the algorithm has sent you to me, it is because you are in an executive role, whether you're a director or a VP. And hey, even if you are not in an executive role and you're a senior professional, but you have an itch for more, you feel stagnant in your career, there could be many reasons why you want to leave, whether it's being frustrated because you've been up for a promotion, they keep promising you and it's never happening. Maybe you're in a toxic culture where you're not getting along with your boss and you don't want to be in an environment where you constantly have to butt heads with your boss and justify every single decision that you're making. It could be that your company has gone through a reorg. There could be many reasons why it makes sense for you to want to leave. But the reason you haven't left yet is because it's difficult to find an alternative that is better, especially when you're not following the right approach. So rather than tell you what to do, I'm going to share with you an example because we all learn through examples. And hopefully, this is going to help your situation. Hey, Maria, so nice to see you. Okay, so let's go through it step by step. Not going to disclose the name of my client, going to keep his identity private because I treat every single client case in a very confidential manner. So, with this client, first of all, he's absolutely fabulous. He has an amazing background. He has a consulting background. He worked at companies like Dell. He worked actually at the VP level before coming to Canada. And this is often what I see with a lot of professionals. They are at higher level roles outside of Canada. They come to Canada, and because they have to adapt to the culture, they don't have the guidance in terms of how to navigate the job market. Or when you're coming from another country to another, or even moving cities, you lose your connections and network, right? So he felt like he had to start from zero. And obviously, you have to pay the bills. So he took any job. Then what happened was he pivoted to academia for a little while. He was in product and he was a product leader. And then he pivoted to academia. Now, there are a couple of things that were going against him, right? One of them obviously is not having the network, but the second one is actually not having clear titles. And I see that often with a lot of professionals. I don't know what it is about organizations. How do they come up with these labels? Oh my goodness, why do you make it so difficult for someone on the outside to understand what you actually do? Why not just call the name of your role the same universal name that everyone understands? Of course, they're not going to make it easy. The other complication is that sometimes the roles are collapsed. So there isn't that, middle basically level. So some organizations go from director all the way to C-level. You have a director reporting into the C-level. So technically, at a director level in that organization, you're actually a VP. So his situation was very complex from that sense. You know, if he just went with whatever title the company gave him, it wasn't really telling the true story of what he's doing and the impact of what he's creating. So there was that aspect. The second aspect is that he lost confidence in himself because he was applying and applying and applying and not getting traction. And so when him and I worked together, there was a little bit of imposter syndrome of, hey, you know, I'm not even getting interviews at an individual contributor level. How am I going to even get an interview at the director level? So he was actually what he was doing was he was actually lowering his expectations and applying for roles that are too junior for him. Okay, so what did we do? How did we solve this? The first thing that I worked on with him was getting him to do this exercise where I got him to share with me all of the pivotal moments in his life and career. Now that might sound a little corny to you because you're thinking, well, what does my childhood have to do with, you know, landing a director level role or a VP level role? And it has to do, it makes a huge difference because I'll tell you something. When you have been working at an organization for so long, when you have been in the same profession for so long, you start losing yourself to that organization. It's almost like, how do I even explain this? Let me give you a very clear example that links to my story. So in 2024, at that point, I think I was 4 years into my career coaching practice. And all I knew in terms of my professional identity was that I was a career coach. That's all I felt I was, even though I was skilled at many things. Like, you know, one of my superpowers is copywriting, storytelling, helping my clients with their communication, helping, you know, people figure out their zone of genius, right? But all I can think of is I'm just a career coach and I didn't know what else to do. So I wanted to take a break from career coaching, and like you all, I wanted to find a job, but I had no idea how to translate my gifts to something that's out there. It was a very scary time for me, I will tell you. And so what I needed to do was to go back to the drawing board, just like I do with my clients, and forget about the title. Forget about the box that I put myself in, that I created for myself, the stereotype that people were basically perceiving, and forget all of that. And so that's what I did with this client is I told them, listen, forget that you were, you know, an instructor at a university at some point. Forget that your title was in customer success. I want to know, what is it that you actually did in all of these organizations? Who are you working with? Who are you talking to? Tell me all the stories. Tell me about all these conversations that you had. And when we went into that depth thoroughly, and we started seeing the patterns of the moments that got him excited in his career, it was insane because this guy was painting this perception that he was a customer experience guy. But then when we got to the bottom of it, he was actually a product guy. And I was like, dude, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile and your resume, I would have never suspected that you were a product guy or that you were more on the technical side, because you've been telling the story of how you're a customer experience guy because that's the title that your organization gave you. That's the identity that your company forced you to basically wear. It actually reminds me of when I was in consulting too. For a period of time, I thought that what I was good at was only based on the projects that my company assigned me to. And the truth is, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you enjoy it. And just because you've only gotten exposure to certain things that your organization gave you doesn't mean that you don't have other areas of mastery. And you may have been doing the things that bring you joy early on in your career, but you discount them because they're not recent and because you forgot about them. So I was able to see all of that because we went to the very beginning of time to understand the entire picture of his career. So when we identified his story and we figured out what his true career direction is and what lights him up, guess what? He got more excited about the roles that he's targeting. And he was not watering down the story that he was telling. Now, I want to show you a tool that I've actually developed that, this client told me was extremely helpful when we've been tackling this. And let me just do a screen share here. So, where is this? Yeah, so I actually developed a custom GPT with practically all of my IP poured into it. I have literally taken hundreds of coaching calls to be able to determine what are the questions that I ask my clients that unlock their memory and helps them articulate what they've done. Because it's very difficult to remember what you've done, right? So there are a lot of prompts that I ask, my clients that helps them trigger their memory and gets them to go deeper into what they've done. Like, okay, great, you worked on this initiative, you led this initiative. Give me the specifics. How big was it? What was the scale of the initiatives? Who did you work with? Who did you partner with? Right? It's just so much easier when you have someone who's asking you all the right questions in order to elicit what you have done in your career. So the way it works, and I'm going to demonstrate it. Let me find a VP of product role. See if I can find one. Okay, well, let's just take this one. Or no, let's take this one. Chief Product Officer. Isn't it funny how they classify roles? Chief Product Officer / VP of Product. I mean, guys, make up your mind. So confusing. Anyway, this is why when I work with my clients, we never look at titles. We look at the substance. Of course, this is asking me to log in now and annoying me, but it's okay. Oh my God, we're not doing this. Let's find another job posting. Okay, so I'm going to copy this job posting and I'm going to put it into my tool in order to demonstrate how smart this custom GPT is. My clients freak out and they tell me that the GPT sounds like you because I've literally, fed it my information, my systems in the back end. So when we go through the exercise with my clients to identify their career direction, what we end up doing in the end is making a decision. I basically, based on all the information that they give me, I shortlist options for them. And after we shortlist options, so for example, with this client, we shortlisted, multiple options. I said, you know what, based on everything you shared with me, based on what you've done in your career, I see multiple pathways for you. One of them is a director of product pathway. One of them is a partnership pathway, right? I gave him all these pathways and I shared with him why I came up with these pathways. And then what we ended up doing is narrowing it down to a product leadership role. Once we did that, then we go even narrower. And I say, I want you to look at job postings that align, with the option that resonates with you. And then we anchor the rebrand to it. Now, it sounds simple, but when you're doing it on your own and you don't have someone that you're talking to and you're bouncing ideas, off, and you're still in this, oh my God, I'm scared of making the wrong, choice, right? That's where people get stuck. And this is where I come in. I bring in my experience from being in the corporate world myself and understanding all kinds of roles. The biggest advantage of being in consulting is you get thrown on large initiatives and you get to work with so many types of people. The second thing that I bring in is my experience of diagnosing over 1,000 careers, because I've worked with over 1,000 professionals. And so I bring all of that context in order to help my clients make the right decision, armed with my system thinking skills to connect the dots and look at the data, because I'm not going to just say, you can do it, right? I have to show you evidence as to why, a particular direction makes sense to you. Okay, so once we anchor to a role, then, like you've seen, we copy and paste it here. And then this GPT is almost like my brain. It's going to start asking you questions. Okay, so I don't see an actual job posting yet. Let me just copy and paste it just to make sure that it understood. Here's the job posting. So now what the GPT does is it takes on a lot of the interpretation. It's going to take the job posting, it's going to break it down into themes. And I find that a lot of leaders, they read a job posting, they don't look at the nuances, they don't see any of the patterns. And so this is a valuable tool that helps you slow down and really become intentional in terms of what the role is asking for. Because the mistake that a lot of people make is they only address one component of the job posting. So for example, when I look at resumes and when I look at how people express their experience, they just speak to, for example, the execution component of the role. They don't talk about the leadership component, how they've actually aligned other functions, because the higher up you are, the skill set of aligning teams becomes even more important. And from a product perspective, things like translating business to AI solutions, trade-off thinking when you're talking with engineers and coming up with trade-offs, right? So the GPT does a lot of that heavy lifting for you, but it also teaches you how to interpret roles, which is a very important skill to have. Okay, so once it does that for you, then, yes, that makes sense. And obviously it will always check with you. Then we move on to the brainstorming part of the exercise, which is remembering what you've done in the last 10 years. Okay. So I'm going to pretend that I'm applying for the role, and I'm going to start with my role at Slalom. And I will make up stuff as I go along just for the purposes of the exercise. So Slalom, director of product, January 2018 to January 2019. Great. I just want to make sure that you guys are actually seeing what this GPT is doing. Very good. Okay, so the next question. What was the main product, program, or initiative you were working on in that role at Slalom? I was working on Cheetah Digital platform to help the client produce marketing campaigns to help the client accelerate the launch of marketing campaigns. Okay, so do you see how it's very systematic? It actually takes you through the questioning process step by step, which is what I do with my clients when I sit down with them. So by going through that, what we end up doing is really going deep into your experience, to the point of like how many teams were involved, what functions. Like these are things that you're not going to remember on your own. So that's one of the innovative tools that I have created. Why did I create this? Because I wanted to accelerate my client success so that when I sit down with them, we can go deeper into our sessions. So this client that I was telling you about, who is interviewing with the SVP next week, he found that this tool was a game changer for him. He loved it. He enjoyed it. He was telling me that, oh my God, I enjoyed it so much. I ended up staying up till 3 a.m. using it because it took me down memory lane. And it really, really helped me remember what I've done, which is a key component. Because as you know, garbage in, garbage out. And I often see this from people who come to me after hiring a resume writer. The resume writer doesn't ask you the right questions. They don't have context in terms of what you've done, especially if you've been in product or engineering. Those are roles that require context. You can't have someone random just asking you questions. Like, what questions are they gonna ask you to elicit, the right information? By the way, if you're hearing like crazy noise, that's my dog doing zoomies at like 9 p.m. Anyway, so when we go deep and when we ask the right questions, what ends up happening is that you end up realizing that you have done so much more than your title actually reflects. And this is where you build the confidence of breaking out of the identity that your company forced you into because of the way that this organization is structured, right? Here's the thing that I want to say when it comes to difficulty of pivoting careers, of leaving organizations. There are so many aspects. What I just shared with you is, I guess, how do I say this? The process of how you would go about it. It's like working with a doctor. They create a treatment plan for you, right? We all know this. Exercise more, get enough sleep, eat the right food, all of the things that are pragmatic, right? But then there's the aspect of you are a human being. You know what you need to do. But who wants to eat vegetables with every meal? Like, is it really going to come from you that you want that you have that desire? I mean, how many of you would go out of their way and eat vegetables? Maybe some of you love vegetables, but I'll be honest, I don't. If it was up to me, I'd eat ice cream every day. I'd eat ice cream with every meal. That's what I would naturally crave. And so there is that aspect of willpower that you need to have in order to execute on a plan correctly. And when you're on your own, it's very difficult to find that willpower. It's very difficult to actually feel motivated to want to eat your vegetables and to want to exercise. And the thing about a job search, it's actually no different. Yes, there's an element of you need to understand the approach. And arguably, I will tell you that 90% of people who reach out to me, they don't follow the right approach, whether they logically know the right approach or they've been fed by the industry the wrong approach and the wrong focus, such as, hey, you need to optimize for the application tracking system. Hey, you need to apply to X, Y, and Z. The other thing that I wanted to say is a lot of the tactics that are put out there are more for junior people in their career. They're more for like maybe mid-level individual contributors. These strategies do not work if you're at the director level and above. Applying to 100 jobs doesn't work when you're at the director level and above. Cold applying on its own and doing absolutely nothing in this market also doesn't work if you're at the director level and above. Spamming people and sending them cold messages and cold emails also doesn't work when you're at the director level and above. I mean, think about it. I'm sure that some of you get these unsolicited in-mails. Does your heart beat faster and get excited when you see that in your inbox? You're probably like, oh my God, who's trying to sell me something this time, right? We don't enjoy having strangers coming on our doorstep and asking for a favor. So why are we following this ridiculous advice that, if I'm going to be honest with you, doesn't truly move the needle? This is like saying to a diabetic person, if you add an extra carrot to your diet, you're going to lose weight. No, you're not going to lose weight, because the root cause of your issue is not that you're not eating enough carrots. The root cause of your issue is that you feel depressed, you feel demotivated, you have so much stress in your life that you're stress eating. So what are you going to solve? Are you going to solve by doing the tactical things that move the needle, or are you going to find the root cause and solve it? And I will tell you, after doing this 1,000 times with all kinds of professionals in different industries, I'm talking people who navigate career transitions because they're moving from one country to another. I'm talking about people who are trying to move up, but they don't have the title, whether it's director to VP, VP to CPO, or individual contributor to director, whether it is someone who is trying to change industries. It's always the same. The root cause of the challenge is that you are going from one professional identity to another. Because you haven't been in that new identity yet, you have trouble expressing yourself. You're expressing yourself as the old identity. Okay? And so that is the root cause. And then the biggest root cause is the demotivation. Because when you are a place in your career where you're not happy, it puts you in a state of imposter syndrome. It makes you not think clearly. It makes you feel terrified to go after the unknown, because you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough. So how do we solve this? You don't solve this by talking to ChatGPT. You don't solve this by hiring a resume writer who basically treats you like a commodity and just, takes your experience and shuffles it like Lego. You need to immerse yourself emotionally in a support system. And this is why I design my program the way it is. I curate the best leaders out there who want to actually up-level and are not just in it for the money. I put them together. I guide them through this journey. They have direct access to me, each person. I mean, gosh, what I'll tell you is this client has direct access to my phone. I mean, he texts me and lets me know on a daily basis where the conversation is going in this job search process. Just that on its own, having someone to talk to and get validation and treats you like a human being is a game changer. Not everyone does that. And this is why people feel stuck in their career, because they don't have that. They don't have the accountability. And it becomes even worse when you are working a job full-time at the same time, trying to navigate this. You get distracted, you slack off. Maybe you'll have one good day at work and you'll say, you know what? Maybe my job is not so bad, so I'm not going to keep looking. Don't kid yourself. If your job was so good, you wouldn't come home feeling stressed. If your job was so good, you wouldn't be going on LinkedIn, daydreaming about what it would look like to add $100,000 to your salary because the grocery prices have gone up and the gas prices have gone up. And so let's be realistic. You're a smart person. You know this. The only way to change is to take action. But the hard part is not knowing actually what action to take. The hard part is actually feeling motivated to take that action. And so if you're in that space where you know you could offer more and you just need that support system and guidance, then my door is open for you. But if you don't have that desire, you don't have that fire within you, you're not like that athlete who always strives for the best for themselves. Even if it's not guaranteed that you're going to succeed, because guess what? In life, I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, nothing is guaranteed in life. But the most successful people do it anyway. They take a bet on themselves, even if there's no guarantee. That's how you become successful in life. I'll tell you something. I'm at a point in my life where personally and professionally, I'm numb to excuses because I have been, and it's not that I'm trying to undermine what people are going through, but the truth is, I have been through so many things in my life that I'm at a point where I have very little sympathy for you if you whine and complain about how your life is not great and you're not doing anything about it. I will give you all an example. I'm on this migraine medication that costs $700 a month. I have absolutely no idea if this medication is going to work. In fact, studies have shown that you're only going to know after the 3 months if there's any type of improvement. But doesn't mean that I don't take it, doesn't mean that I don't try it. I don't know for sure, but it's worth a try because in my head, what I imagine is like, what if I do try it and it works? And so that is the mindset of a high achiever and a successful person. So if that is you, if I'm speaking to you right now, then please book a call with me. If that is not you and you want that 100% certainty, you don't want to take ownership, of your results, then please don't waste my time. I'm just going to be 100% direct. Okay. So how do you book the call with me? I'm going to show you how. So how you do this, let me show you here. Let's see if I can share my screen. Well, actually, I'm going to take you all the way from the beginning because LinkedIn doesn't make it super easy and obvious. I'm going to show you where to find the booking button on my LinkedIn profile. So if you go on my LinkedIn profile, right underneath the heading, there's a button that says book an appointment. Click on that. It's very, very simple. I encourage you to watch the video because when you watch the video, you're going to hear my story and you're also going to see examples of clients that have worked with me. Okay? So watch the video if you can. Then click on book your career diagnosis. It's a 2-minute basically intake in order for me to understand your situation, because we only have 15 minutes on the call and I want to do my due diligence. I want to understand your situation. I want to understand, what's blocking you, because I want our conversation to be productive so that I can actually help you design a plan and diagnose what's blocking you. That on its own is of great value. It's going to keep you from wasting your time on the wrong things, right? So do that. Takes 2 minutes. And then what's going to happen is it's going to take you to the spot where you see my calendar and you book a time that works for you. This week, okay, I opened up extra spots to accommodate people because I know if you're doing a 9-to-5 job and you're at work, maybe, you don't want to be in your car to talk to me and maybe you want to be at home. So take advantage of that, right? And there are some weekend spots too that are very limited. also saying take advantage of that because those are not always going to be available. So if you're listening to this, this may be a sign. I would jump on the opportunity and book the call. All right, beautiful. Look, I know I gave a lot of tough love in this live, but honestly, that's what my clients tell me. I give the tough love because I truly care. I don't sugarcoat things. I'm a very direct coach. And even with my clients, I tell them the truth. Like if I see that something that they're doing is not helping their situation, regardless of where they are in the process, whether it's their positioning, whether it's the way that they're coming across, even down to the level of your photo is not giving the right vibes. I'm honest with my clients because isn't it better that you hear the truth? I mean, it's like going out with your friends. Would you want your friends to tell you the truth about what you're wearing, or do you want them to stroke your ego? So that's my style. Okay. If you had a takeaway from this, live, if you had an aha moment that has really helped you, I would really appreciate it if you let me know in the comments. And if you just give this video a like, it's going to mean a lot to me. I don't see your faces. I don't know who you are. It's motivating for me to actually see that people are viewing my videos and they're benefiting from them. And if you have a friend or a coworker that you know could benefit from this, then feel free to repost this video. It's very simple to repost. You're going to see like a button at the bottom that says repost, and you can click on it. I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you learned a lot. I know that there's a lot of noise about how the market is bad, but I truly believe that we are in a very weird time that can feel emotionally taxing. We are flooded with a lot of information. It feels like the market is saturated because the barrier to entry has been lowered due to AI, right? And I think that everyone deserves to not feel alone in this process. And what I've strived to create is to create a community where people feel like they belong, where they're not alone, where they're feeling supported. And so I hope that you enjoyed this, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Thank you so much for listening.